you could find a way how to make 50 kicks within 10 minutes, would you do it? Because what I usually see is that producers put all their kick samples in a new project and they keep building and building over and over again. There's a way easier way than that. We're going to properly analyze a kick to understand what a kick drum actually is and what it's made of. What is a transient? What is a punch? Stuff like that. That's better. So after watching this video, you'll be able to create your own kick builder and have a better understanding how it actually works. All right, so I already reloaded up a kick, and let's analyze. What is a kick drum? This one is obviously finished. So a kick drum consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 layers. Let me show you. We have the first part, we have the second part, we have the third part, and I'll dive into that later. Okay, so the first part is called the transient. What is a transient? The transient is the beginning of the punch that gives that tick sound. Yeah, more like this. The very beginning, maybe a little bit longer. Okay, let's call this transient. Okay, so this one we want to make unique because we're going to change this up. I would call this this is the punch, but the transient is also a part of the punch. I would call this the punch sound. So now the transient and the punch sound together, they form the punch, if you will. Then we have the last part of the kick, usually called a tail, crunch, whatever you want to call it, right? Let's call it crunch. All right, so all together it sounds like this. That's basically a kick drum. Now, in order to make a kick drum, obviously there's a lot of processing involved. We're not gonna. It's not a build a kick from scratch today. We're not gonna do that. I think there's a lot of tutorials about that. I just want to show you how you can create your kick builder that works for you, and you can literally make 50 kicks and increase your collection. Right? All right, let's start by putting all of these to a new channel. Control L to a new, okay, transient, punch, sound, crunch. Cool. All right, well, this is very basic. So what I'm gonna do now is, let's see, for the transient, I just want that to be high end. So I'm gonna remove all the low end. Something like this. All right, really basic for now. All right, the punch sound is, in my opinion, the most important sound for the kick overall. This really sets the tone, how your kick is going to sound. This is going to be your unique sound, right? So this one is going to be the most important one in the kick builder. So what I want to do with this is I'm going to put, well, I already put it on a new channel. The processing is, well, let's start with a reverb on a separate scent. So I'll put a scent here. Put a Valhalla, you know what, let's just work with basic plugins because that's what I teach my students. So let's do that with the YouTube tutorial too. Reverb 2. Cool. Open up the wet. No dry. That's the wrong channel. Boomer. Needs to be in this one. Yep. Reverb 2. People always tell me that I look very angry when I produce. So I'm trying not to be too angry today. Alright, removing the low ends, you can also do it with Paramedic EQ too, but I'm not a huge fan of it. So make sure you get a fab filter. Okay, so we have the reverb on a separate scent channel. I'm going to put an automation on that because I want to have full control over it. Alright, so now the punch sound like this. The reverb is continuous. Okay, so what I want is that the reverb is going to be later. So something when the punch sound is ending, I want that reverb to go up. And depending if you're working in triplets or in quarter beats, you have to adjust the rhythm of the reverb. Right, that's okay. Okay, for now I'm going to change up the size of the room for the reverb a little bit. What does that do? Well, it changes up the sound of the reverb completely. Let's take a listen what would sound good. So, mid size. Bass off, by the way. TK can be a little bit longer. Dampening, not so much. It only adds high end to it. Definitely not. Still struggling with the size. I don't hear much difference. Let's just keep it for now. I probably didn't hear any difference because I cut a little bit too much. Yeah, there it is. It's in the lower region. Just gonna keep it for now. Remove a little bit of high end. So what I want to do now, the reverb sounds fine, but I want to boost it a little bit. It needs to be a little bit more, you know, a little bit stronger. So the way you can do that is either a balancer, soft clipper, whatever you guys want. I just usually like to put a upward limiting compression on it. What I do is I find the highest peak with the ceiling, and then I crank up the gain a little bit. So what it does, the limiter is a brick wall, right? Everything past the line is not going to happen. So instead, what I want it to do is push the sound to that wall. So that's called upwards compression. Okay. Okay, this sounds nice. Let me turn off the limiter on the master. We'll dive into that later. Okay. So now we have the transient, we have the punch sound, and we have the crunch. Not bad. Okay, so this is the basic, right? Transient, punch, sound, crunch. All right, so now we understand the basics of how a kick is built in different segments, if you will. Transient, punch, sound, and the crunch, which has the low end. Now, obviously we're here for the kick builder. So how would you make a kick builder? Well, you want something that you can replace easily. So let's start with the punch sound. Because obviously this is already a pre-made kick, so it's a little bit unfair. Let's say if you're actually building a kick, let's think a little bit out of the box here. We can use animal sounds, for example, or an instrument, anything that has a consistent tone, especially if you want to make Rawstyle, like dual damage, or strikers, for example, where the punch is literally the key of the melody. So let's go for that. Let's go for like a very raw kick and think outside of the box. Okay, instrument. I think Kashmir has a lot of instruments. Okay. Main instruments, violin. You want something with a consistent tone in this case. Trumpet. Sure. Let's take that first part. Let's listen to it. Let's get rid of that plop. Let's go to the EQ settings. Beautiful. Sounds really nice, but now I'm gonna distort the shit out of it. So distortion, fast distortion is my friend. You can use any distortion you like. Because see, this is that consistent tone where I'm talking about. It's a little bit flat. It's not really like filling the audio spectrum for a fat kick, but you can always listen to it. Sounds more like a beat kick, not so much what I'm looking for. Maybe stretch it up a little bit, especially if you want to make it like a klunk kick-ish. Not sure. It's nice. Let's see what else we can do. Maybe boost a different frequency. That's better. So what I did is I took more frequencies into the distortion because the order matters very much. So I selected more frequencies to boost and then the distortion. So we have the transient doing his job. We have this part, which is the punch sound, which is now a trumpet. Like I said, it can be anything with a consistent tone. And you can also lower the pitch. However you want to lower the pitch, honestly, this is my weird way of doing it. It's right-clicking here. This is more the key they use, right? I feel like that the reverb can have a little bit more power. I also feel like there's no low end here. So what I try to explain to you, we have the transient, we have the punch, and we have the crunch, but we can dive deeper into it, right? So what we'll do now is add a element to the punch to give it more more punch. So we're gonna add a kick, not a kick drum, but an 808. If you don't know what that means, honestly, it's just a fast oscillator moving. Sounds complicated. Okay, club kick. How about that? Club kick. Brokens, our good friend from the community. Anyone has a club kick. If you don't know what how to make one, it's very easy to do in Serum, Silent, or Kick 2, the best. Honestly, I do it with Kick 2, but there's plenty of tutorials out there how to do Kick 2. I also have one on my production program, of course. All right, let's use this one just to give that, you know, a little bit of more power to the trumpet, because the trumpet doesn't have any power. It's just flat. Okay, so let's add some power to that. All right, so what we want is the beginning of the punch region. We don't want to interfere the low end with this low end. That is no bueno. So we're working here, excuse me, itchy, and we call this the sub punch, or punch sub would be better. Okay, so let's listen to that. Okay. I feel like this punch is a little bit too long, a little bit too EDM-ish. Boom, boom, boom. So I'm gonna turn down the pitch. Okay. Okay, this sounds better. Okay, but now it sounds really flat, right? It sounds okay, but it sounds really flat. It's not bad. I just need a little bit more high end over here. So you can do that with adding another layer in the punch. So let's go to a clap or snare, something with a lot of high end. I have no idea. So let's just try it out. Crash. Well, what is this even? Clap. All right, clap. Clap it. Okay, and then just blend it in. Make sure you just use the first part, and let's see what we got. I don't know if it's gonna sound good, but I just need that little bit of high end. Just put a distortion on it. Why not? Why not? More high frequencies. Why not? Fast dist for the win. Get rid of that transient up from the clap. I don't like that. Something like this, yeah. Maybe even EQ boost to get a little bit of a different effect, like just a. Let's listen to it. I don't know how it sounds together. Always listen how it sounds together. Right. See, now it gives a little bit of support, but I feel like that frequency is not. Get it at the same key that the trumpet is playing, which is kind of hard. I'm just gonna do it like this, so it blends in pretty nicely, I would say. Hear the difference? This is without. This is with. Needs a little bit more fine-tuning. So yeah, this is all part of the kick builder, guys. You stack the sounds together, and eventually, as a final result, you can just replace the samples and make infinite kicks. We'll get there. So I noticed that the video is going to be a little bit long, so therefore I'm just going to cut to the chase a little bit more. So basically we have two more steps to go. One step is to add a volume automation on the sound of the punch. Through that way you can say like, hey, this is the end of the sound, and you can replace it with anything, but it will still remain the same length. What do I mean with that? I'm going to turn off this echo for now. Let's say the kick is like this, right? This is still with the trumpet, and I'll also play around with this high-end crunch. I'll tell you that after this. Okay, so basically it's about this sound, right? This is the volume automation on this sound. So what I can do now, let's say I can stretch it all the way. and whatever the sound is, it will not go further than this. So that's also very necessary for this kick builder, because you can now replace with any length of the sound you want. For example, let's say it will be this sound, but you like it more over here. So it doesn't really matter. You can now find your sweet spot with the S&P start. You can just literally browse through your stretched sound and find something you like. For example, right? So through that way, you can replace it with any sample and the length will still remain the same. Okay, last part of the kick builder is the low end. So what I did, I duplicated the crunch, right? This was the crunch, I duplicated it, and I duplicated it, and I put this one on a new channel. It's called the low end. So what that means is, obviously, I cut everything until 100 hertz. Only the sub lows remain. So that's this one, the low end, which is still the same crunch sample that I used. Okay, now with this method, I used a high-end crunch. And the idea behind this is that you have full control over the crunch. You can now distort, change, manipulate the crunch, whatever you want, without sacrificing the low end. It's a very important trick, and it will give you a lot of freedom in your kick builder. So now you have the crunch and the low end separated. Let's say you were working on the low end only, and you're going to distort that. It might sound good, but all your low end is just gone. The sub is gone. Preserve the low end and work with the high end crunch. Okay, so now we have transient, we have the sub punch, we have the, if needed, support for the mids, for the mid in the punch. We have the volume automation for the punch, so it doesn't go any further, and it also doesn't conflict with any of the crunch here. And we have the low end split up in low end and the crunch. So the crunch is split up in between low end and crunch. And then we have the reverb automation. So this is basically the kick builder. You can now replace any sample. You can replace the transient. You can replace the sub punch. The most important things are the low end. If you're gonna replace the low end with, let's say, a clap long tail or a straight tail, make sure that the high end crunch is the same one, because otherwise there's going to be phasing issues, or phasing issues. You need the same sounds. It might sound very not in harmony, if that's the right word, if you're going to use two complete different tails. So that's it, guys. I'm gonna save part 2 for the mixing, mastering stuff for your kick builder. So that means with whatever you put out, whatever the output is, it's gonna sound the same in LUFS, the same volume. So every time you are working in a new project, you can just copy paste your new kicks into the project and they will all sound the same in terms of EQing, low end, volume output. I hope you learned something today. If you like what I do, make sure to check out the description and check out one of my 2 programs where I have 22 hours of these kind of lessons where it's really in-depth, not so much of a quick fix. And yeah, check out the description. Hope to see you soon and catch you to number 2, where we go into mixing and mastering our kick builder. See ya.